Greetings, malignant worms, crawling on the rotten apple of existence. I'm Asmodeus. This is the second episode of Devil's Advocates. Let's get right down to it, shall we? Are you ready there, Balbrith?
Yes, I am. Hit it.
Well, let's see what the infernal wheel of contention has in store for us today. Anti-side. Really want to be on the anti-side. I ever so reluctantly agree to argue the pro-side.
Donald John Trump was born in Queens, New York on June 14th, 1946. He took charge of his family's real estate business in 1971, renamed it the Trump Organization, and built or renovated skyscrapers, hotels, casinos, and golf courses. Trump later started various side ventures, mostly by licensing his name. He managed the company until 2017. He also co-authored several books, including The Art of the Deal. He owned the Miss Universe and Miss USA beauty pageants from 1996 to 2015 and produced and hosted The Apprentice, a successful reality TV show from 2003 to 2015. He was elected the 45th President of the USA in 2016. Commentators describe his political positions as populist, protectionist, and nationalist. He's the oldest first-term president. His elections and policies have sparked numerous protests. Many of his comments and actions have been characterized as reckless, racially charged, and anti-immigrant by the mainstream media.
You know I'm totally off script right now. But you know what I like about this? Number one, I'm in love, and you're in love. We're all in love together. We've done something that nobody's ever done. Don, how you doing? Hey, Donnie. I love you, Donnie. For 35 years now, they call Mr. President, sir. How are you? Trains to Hawaii. How do you get to Europe? We haven't figured that one out yet. We don't use airplanes anymore. Is doing well, except, of course, for the Never-Trumpers. But they are on mouth-to-mouth resuscitate. And I'm in the White House, and I was lonely. I said, let's go to Iraq. This speech should have been delivered 1 year from now, not now, damn it. Because they're going to grip together. They're going to say, you know, this guy's really laying for us. I should have saved the Pocahontas thing for another year. Instead, we believe in free speech, including online and including on campus. They're trying to take you out with bullshit, okay? With bullshit.
Come along with me, Trumpsters and cooks alike, for the most magical of journeys, as I lay out why Trump is both on making America great, and it's just great overall, in a general sense.
Billions and 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 billions and
is a self-made billionaire, and as one would suspect, the richest president ever in the history of the United States of America, with the most years of business experience under his belt, has had a rather good effect on the economy. Dollar bill, y'all. Trump is a fantastic role model. Hear me out. So, Trump is a graduate of the prestigious Wharton Business School, a successful TV star, a businessman, an author, and has won the following awards. Also, I doubt if even his many detractors would deny that he's an absolute genius at marketing, who managed to get $5 billion in free publicity in 2016, among other things. Trump is also a strict teetotaler. He doesn't drink coffee, tea, and has never touched a drop of alcohol. He's never gone on record about his drug use, but it's highly unlikely he so much as smoked a joint. He's one of the few public figures who can advise kids not to drink or do drugs while keeping a straight face. The perfect role model during an opioid epidemic. Beyond that, he's an engaging public speaker, routinely drawing crowds of 15,000. Trump never takes shit from anybody. Whenever someone attacks him, he hits back every single time. He's assertive and unbowed, and there's no pushing him around. Beyond that, he's an undeniably driven individual, having succeeded across various disparate spheres, and apparently he only sleeps 3 or 4 hours every night. And oh yeah, President-elect of the US of A, despite almost all polls giving Clinton a 90 or 99% chance of winning. Inspiration for underdogs everywhere, yeah? So if Donald Trump can become president, anything is possible. Chase your dreams. In the immortal words of Dick Nolan, politicians are like diapers. They need to be changed regularly and for the same reason. Well, the USA has had the same 2 political parties who always nominate either retired generals or seasoned politicians. Donald Trump isn't a third-party candidate, but he's achingly close. He's changed political affiliations 5 times, was opposed by the vast majority of the Republican Party during his hostile takeover during the primaries, including by both George Bushes, Ben Shapiro, Leslie Graham, Mitt Romney, John McCain. Everybody. He's also the only president to have no He's also the only president to have no government or military experience, ever. To call Trump an outsider is a massive understatement. After 241 years of the same old, maybe it's time to mix it up a bit. Critic or fan, I think it's hard to argue that Trump's win and subsequent administration hasn't been a total system disrupt. Maybe in the grand scale, not such a bad thing. He's on track to be the only president since Jimmy Carter not to involve the USA into any new wars. Incidentally, for any war fighters out there, the USA is currently technically involved in 7 wars. So any move in a less warlike direction would be a nice change of pace. Trump is probably the most honest politician in modern times. Okay, just kidding. But one thing that people relate to is Trump's authenticity. There's a type of honesty. Say what you will about the man, but he's no plastic smile politician, mouthing upbeat platitudes and telling people what his PR team says is politically expedient.
I don't feel no ways tired. I come too far from where I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy.
Versus.
She said he's a We'll beat the out of them. Let them beat the out of ISIS also. It's political. Our country's going to hell. It's going to hell.
Trump operates without a filter. Refreshing to see in the political arena. Trump probably receives the most criticism for his frequent confabulations and creative interpretations. But let's switch up the paradigm, shall we? Instead of viewing Trump like everybody else, encumbered by such mundane concepts as factual accuracy, and instead see him as a bit of a scoundrel, a P.T. Barnum-style showman. Simply put, Trump talks a lot of shit, but perhaps better to judge him by what he does, when not claiming climate change is a hoax dreamed up by the Chinese. What he does is keep a crap load of campaign promises. Although Hillary Clinton remains unjailed, and he hasn't actually brought back waterboarding. Some would argue, maybe that's for the best. But promises he has kept. And never say happy holidays, only Merry Christmas. He's currently working on He's also compromised and had partial victory on the following. So far, the wall remains stubbornly inbuilt, but not for lack of trying. Trump has declared a state of emergency in an attempt to do an end run around Congress to get the money for funding, as well as hitting up the Department of Defense to pay for 131 miles. He doesn't appear to be letting it go. Trump's opponents, some of them weren't actually the most likeable cast of characters. The 2016 SJWs had strongly opposed his election.
They were taught to be peaceful! Fuck you! Fuck you!
It's coming from a professor.
I'm a professor! I don't like you!
You are disgusting! And now I want your job to be taken from you.
You're fucking a white male! You're a white man!
Were debatably one of the most annoying groups of all time. Also, the Democratic Party that opposed him.
Donald Trump, he's a clown.
Which Republican candidate has the best chance of winning the general election?
Of the declared ones right now, Donald Trump.
We're going for the record, condensation and smugness. They thought the election was theirs. They fielded one of the more strongly disliked candidates since polling records began. Never have there been people more deserving to be hoisted by their own petard. Stage was set, lo and behold. Retribution. It's not that Trump is really a paragon of virtue or anything, but rather, no single human being could be guilty of as many accusations and bad intentions that have been attributed to Trump. From ice cream entitlement to fascist white supremacist Russian agent, there's no bridge too far in the criticism of him. I like to mount a spirited defense on a case-by-case basis. But due to the sheer volume of accusations, I'm going to limit myself to debunking 5 of the bigger criticisms, quick and dirty like. There's a story going around that all the diplomats of the world laughed Trump off the stage. So, let's watch that clip, shall we? Usually part of it seems to get played.
In less than 2 years, my administration has accomplished more than almost any administration in the history of our country. America's so true. Didn't expect that reaction, but that's okay. America's economy is booming like never before.
So, gets a laugh when he's claiming to be the accomplished almost more than any other administration in the history of our country. And a bit over the top his claims go. But then he, 1, laughs at himself, 2, makes a joke that gets a bigger laugh, and 3, carries on with the speech. I've seldom seen a heckle handled better by stand-up comedians. So if you want a textbook example how to neutralize shade, this is probably it. Yet, a masterful handle somehow gets spun as you humiliate in defeat. If you haven't read all 440 pages of the Mueller report, I'll break it down for you. Basically, it says that the Trump administration tried to do everything in its power to hamstring the Mueller investigation. Ironically, this might actually lead to an impeachment at some point down the line, wherein if the Trump administration just let an investigation happen without interference, it'd be exonerated. Not the most masterful political chess play, that. Also, apparently in 2016, some people in the Trump administration might have been receptive to getting some dirt on Clinton, but no collusion. There's zero evidence of a supervillain team-up between Trump and Russia to hack the election, which, by the way, Russia definitely did do. So Russia created Twitter bots and all sorts of crazy shit to sway the election in Trump's favor, as he was seen as more friendly to Russia.
Огонь на подавление! Враг сзади по левому!
Do you know the Klingon proverb that tells us revenge is a dish that is best served cold? It is very cold.
Although she does have a very nice figure. I've said that if Ivanka weren't my daughter, perhaps I'd be dating her. You know.
Stop it! Oh, it's so weird. Stop. You know what? You are sick.
Would I approve waterboarding? You bet your ass I'd approve it. You bet your ass. In the good old days, this doesn't happen because they used to treat them very, very rough. And when they protested once, you know, they would not do it again so easily.
Allow me to lay out the case against Donald J. Trump. Spoiler alert, it's a strong one. So Trump's economic program can be summed up. This is quite echoey here. Echo! Alright, let's switch to mic and might as well go full digital while we're at it.
Much better. Okay, so Trump's economic program can be summed up as an attack on taxes and regulations with increased spending on infrastructure and the military that would create a supply shock to the economy. However, critics believe that any economic benefit wouldn't last because the fiscal stimulus is aimed only at the near-term growth. And while some specific indicators look good, some just look like a continuation of a trend, like Trump didn't do anything at all. But let's set that aside for a second. So if something looks too good to be true, it usually is. So the dark side of all the corporate tax cuts and infrastructure spending is the deficit is exploding. Ironically, Trump had criticized Obama for his deficit spending, but he's shattering Obama's deficit to GDP ratio bigly. And I should add, Obama presided through a recession. So Trump also plans to add $5.088 trillion to the debt in his first term. That's a 30% increase from the $20.245 trillion debt at the end of Obama's last budget in 2017. If Trump remains in office for a second term, he plans to add an additional $9.1 trillion. For the record, Trump had promised to eliminate the national debt during his campaign. Politicians lie. Okay, I get it. But not like this. There have been over 10,000 false or misleading statements documented since Trump first took office. Even if you don't count accidental misspeaks or you accuse the media of padding out these numbers due to bias, it's really hard to deny that Trump has a propensity to telling fibs. But okay, let's set that aside for now. Let's say, just for argument's sake, Trump isn't any more of a liar than your average politician. It might be more pertinent to look at the types of lies Trump tells. I'm going to focus on one specific lie out of the 10,000 as an example to illustrate why the kinds of lies Trump tells are so very pernicious. Let's talk about Trump's involvement in the Obama birther movement. So for those of you that don't know, the Obama birther movement, it was a fringe anti-Obama propaganda piece claiming that Obama was actually born in Kenya, thus ineligible to be president of the USA. This rumor was started by some internet trolls who supported Hillary Clinton. So in 2010, Trump became this obscure conspiracy's unofficial spokesman, and he took it super mainstream. It was, as conspiracy theories go, rather weak sauce, falling somewhere between flat Earth and Elvis is still alive, i.e. there's a 100-to-1 ratio. For every one piece of evidence proving the conspiracy theory, there's 100 pieces disproving it. Not super convincing. If you want a believable conspiracy theory, research Jim Morrison faking his death. That's a convincing conspiracy theory. But I digress. Okay, So despite claims to the contrary, Trump is a smart guy, and there's no reason to assume he's totally ignorant enough to be taken in by laughably false birther claims. But for 5 long years, he would say things like, "Our current president came out of nowhere. In fact, I'll go one step further. The people that he went to school with him, they never saw him. They don't know who he is. It's crazy." In 2011, he also said he would release his tax returns if Obama released his birth certificate. But even after Obama produced a long-form birth certificate, Trump would still rail on. Until 2016, 2 months before Election Day, he suddenly pivoted and claimed 2 things.
Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy.
And
President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period.
To a somewhat jaded observer, this could be interpreted as a ploy by Trump to maliciously lie and slander a political opponent to raise his own political profile for his upcoming presidential run, and when expedient, totally reverse course and blame someone else for starting it in the first place. This is one of the worst types of lies. It's deliberate, destructive, and is both Machiavellian and cynical to the extreme. In fairness, Trump didn't ban Muslims from the country. His original Muslim ban was for 6 months and only applied to 5 Muslim-majority countries. But he has made various comments about how Islam hates us and things to that effect. He's also expressed criticism on the wisdom of immigration from Muslim countries due to the threat of Islamic extremism. This raises the important question: is it fair to paint all people of a group or religious ideology with the same brush? This type of reasoning is quite similar to that used back in the day to block boats of Jews fleeing the Holocaust during World War II, to persecute communists during the Red Scare of the 1950s, or the Irish during the 19th and early 20th century. The thinking is as follows: these people are dangerous, bad, and can't assimilate, but it's often inaccurate and prejudicial to make such wide generalizations about groups. To put an even face on things, I think that claiming that Muhammad Ali, Zach Malik, Shaquille O'Neal, Dr. Oz, Mala, Omar Sharif, and Dave Chappelle hate the USA and are some kind of threat isn't especially convincing. Alright, maybe believe all women is a bridge too far for you, but do you believe any women? Because 24 separate women have accused Trump of sexual harassment, assault, or rape. 24. Just to put things in perspective, the previous record holder, Bill Clinton, had 4 accusations. Setting aside the ethics of blocking illegal border crossers, Trump's approach has left something to be desired. So, illegal border crossings have been in steady decline since 2005, until the second year of the Trump presidency, actually. This was at least partially an unintended consequence of the highly publicized rollback of the Trump administration family separation policy, with many immigrants and human smugglers taking note that the USA now does not officially detain families anymore. It's led to a giant explosion of entire families of illegal immigrants attempting to cross. In 2019, 230,000 children were brought in the USA illegally, and that's so far. Said differently, if the family separation policy had been announced and implemented in the first place, the illegal immigration numbers would probably have continued their historic decline. Trump has been linked to a lot of sleazy and unethical business practices, more than I really have time to go into here. But some of the more famous ones include Trump University, which used extremely predatory sales practices to sucker students into paying thousands of dollars for extremely poor quality seminars, leading to the financial ruin of some Trump alumni. Or the time Trump tried every dirty trick in the book to try to get tenants to move out of one of his buildings so he could tear it down and build more condos, including him cutting off the power and water, refusing to make any repairs, and eventually suing the tenants for $150 million. Or how about how Trump constantly stiffs people on bills? He's been accused by literally hundreds of individual contractors including a toilet maker in Atlantic City and a cabinet maker in Philadelphia, of not paying his bills. In some cases, this has led to the contractors going bankrupt. USA Today found Trump was involved in over 3,500 lawsuits during the last 3 decades. At least 60 lawsuits, along with hundreds of liens, judgments, and other government filings, were from disgruntled contractors claiming they got stiffed. USA Today also found at least 24 violations of the Fair Labor Standard Act since 2005 for failing to pay overtime or minimum wage. Or how about how Trump and his family charitable foundation was dissolved this year due to the lawsuit from the New York Attorney General. This was due to the charity, quote unquote, functioning as little more than a checkbook to serve Mr. Trump's business and political interests, including buying a football helmet autographed by Tim Tebow and a large painting of Donald Trump. Often considered the very definition of an unjust law, civil asset forfeiture laws allow police to seize and then keep or sell any or all property they allege is involved in a crime. Owners need not even be arrested or convicted of a crime for their cash, cars, or even real estate to be taken away permanently by the state. I highly recommend checking out the ACLU website for horror stories of the victims of civil forfeiture laws. When Trump found out about a senator who was talking about introducing legislation to require criminal conviction before the government can confiscate property, Trump replied as follows: "Who is the state senator? Do you want to give me his name? We'll destroy his career." Trump has a long history of being sued or otherwise accused of having racial prejudice, dating all the way back to the 70s, when the Justice Department sued him and his father twice for not renting to black people. Trump has also suggested that a judge should be disqualified because his ethnicity would make him biased, although the judge is an American citizen who was actually born in Indiana. Trump recently fired off a tweet that was offensive to many, in which he suggested certain Democratic congresswomen needed to go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came, despite 3 of the 4 congresswomen having been born in the US of A.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
Most people like Native Americans, right? Well, Donald Trump has a long history of fighting with them. So, Trump feared a proposed Indian-run casino would threaten his gambling interests in Atlantic City, so he staged a long legal and PR battle against the natives, coming out with things like he'd have to check and see whether or not they're real Indians, and
"They don't look like Indians to me."
When asked to explain what an Indian looked like, Trump responded, you know. Also, Trump said that most people think casino gambling will be what alcohol was to the Indians of past generations. And Trump also repeatedly questioned the concept of tribal sovereignty. Also, he claimed that organized crime is rampant on the Indian reservations, despite the Department of Justice not finding that organized crime had infiltrated Native American casinos. He also secretly paid for attack ads alleging one tribe had a record of drug trafficking, money laundering, and smuggling illegal immigrants in the USA, as well as violence. Trump was eventually fined $250,000 and had to publicly apologize. A common refrain by Donald Trump apologists is he hasn't done anything that bad, like getting the USA into a war. Well, I would disagree. No war yet, but Trump has undeniably done a lot of bad things. I think there's a very strong case to be made that Trump is a disloyal husband, a pernicious liar, an abrasive bully, a slippery scam artist, and has demonstrated a lot of unethical behavior. Not a nice guy. So do you want a president that's a good person or a president that's a good businessman? I would say the former is far more important for the highest office in the world. This guy is the nuclear launch codes. So Trump is responsible for navigating a complex moral, geopolitical morass. The stakes are very high. If his motivations are more selfish and immoral than decent and good, the consequences could be quite dire indeed. Basically, the USA and the world deserves, it needs, better.
I took off her and I moved on her like a bitch, but I couldn't get there, and she was married. Then all of a sudden I see her, she's now got the big phony tits and everything. She's totally changed her look.
She's your girl's hot as shit. In the purple.
Whoa!
Yes!
Whoa!
Yes, the Donald has scored!
Whoa!
Oh, my man!
I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. You can do anything.
Alright, that about wraps it up. So for those keeping track at home, I think I definitely presented the more convincing of cases. Keep fucking dreaming, you wanker. So if you have any suggestions for next week's Wheel of Contention, don't be a stranger. Until then, don't forget, stay evil.